This conference will now be recorded.
Hello everyone. Let's discuss a topic today about OCC web services customization. As you know, these days most of the companies using headless commerce, or even if you use Hybris, you may need to customize a lot of out-of-the-box web services or OCC services, or you need to create a new OCC service depending on your requirement. If it is a headless, all the data is exchanged using OCC web services only. Whereas if it is a hybrid storefront, you are using it, not all of them are used, but some of them are used to expose to the third-party systems. Let's see how we can build a new OCC web service from scratch. So before we go to the steps, there are sequence of steps we need to follow to build a web service. But let's see what is required before we start this exercise. So I already did couple of steps, or I already done couple of steps part of this exercise. And if you want to know about these steps, there are other videos are available. Those are simple steps. And the steps I followed is I install the software. You can install whatever the software you have it, hybrid software. And the second one is created a custom extensions using Ant module gen. Ant module gen. So when you use Ant module gen, it will create a set of extensions based off of out of the box. So as you can see here, let me close all these ones. You can see here, I already done the customization. I already done the custom extensions. These are the different extensions based off of Ant module gen created. There is a facade, there is a core, there is a fulfillment, initial data, storefront, like that. So I already done the software installation and extension customization. The other step you have to do is, because we are talking about the web services customization, right? Ant module gen by default is not going to create the web services extension. So all the out of the box web services, if we take the order controller, product controller, cart controller, users controller, they're all available part of the Y-commerce web services, which is out of the box. But if you want to do any customization, or if you want to build any new service, we cannot do in out of the box commerce web services. So we have to build again our own extension and need to do the customization. So for that, what I already done is I built a custom extension, again RRS training. That's what I used for each extension. Commerce web services is the extension created based on Y commerce web service out of the box. So as you can see here, I created RRS training commerce web services, and this extension is created using Y commerce web services, and any customization need to be done part of this extension only. Now my setup is ready. I can go ahead and create a web service, or I can customize out of the box web services here. So let's take a look at first the requirement, what it is. And my requirement here is I want to create a new web service to get the course details based on the course code. So that is my requirement. And the first thing we have to do is, whenever there is a requirement, you need to discuss with the other teams or whoever consuming that service that you are going to build it. You need to ask them, what is the input criteria and what are you expecting out of the box or out of that service? So this is the first thing you need to identify. So whenever someone asks saying that, okay, can you build a service so that we can consume it. So the immediate question is, okay, we will build, it's not a problem. What is the input criteria that you are going to pass to the service, and what are you expecting part of that service? So that's the first thing you need to ask them. And the second question is, what kind of operation they are going to use it? Are they going to use the create, read, update, delete? What kind of operation they want part of that service? So you need to ask them, okay, you are good. Do you want to create a record based on the input? Do you want to update the existing record based on the input criteria? What exactly you want to do part of that service? So two things we have to discuss with the team or whoever consuming that service is, what is the input criteria and what is the output criteria, or what are you expecting from that service, and what kind of operation you want to perform using the service so that we can build it. So here our requirement is talking about create a service to get the course details. Getting is nothing but the read operation. So we are basically going to get the course detail based on the course ID or course code. To do this exercise, there are a couple of steps we need to follow. Let's follow each step and see whether we can build a new service successfully and we can test that service. So the requirement is clear. Now, what is the first step we have to do? The first step here is we need to create an item type, because the requirement is create an item type table and populate the data into the table and read it. So most of the times table may exist. So in this case, my requirement is saying the table even not exists. So I have to create the item type. So the step 2 is, once you're done identifying the contract input and output criteria, you need to build a item type. And in this case, I'm calling as courses. And then you need to perform and clean all followed by system update. So let's take a look at quickly the items.xml. And this is my items.xml. So basically it has 4 attributes, which is a code, name, duration, and amount. And the item type code is courses, and the table name is RRS training courses. So this is the item type. I created it and now performed and clean all and also perform the system update. So after performing and clean all, this item type, based on this item type, a corresponding model will be generated. So you can see here, this is the model object created based on this item type when you perform and clean all. And this model object basically contains the setters and getters based on the items.xml. So that is basically step 2. So I am done step 2. Now what is step 3? So we have the item type. We need to read the data from that item type. So to read the item data from that item type, you need to build a flexible search query. So write a flexible search query based on the input criteria in the core extension. All the flexible queries will go into the core extension. Let's see how we can build how we can write a flexible search query. So here is my query, public class DAO impl extending abstract DAO, which is out of the box, and implementing an interface. The interface is basically simply get course detail by code and return the list of courses model. The DAO always returns the model object only. And if you look at here, the method I return as get course detail by code, taking the parameter as code, and then I build a hash map and added input parameters to that hash map, and then using flexible search service executing the query. So you get flexible search service is out of the box. So you can use that and you can say service.search, pass the query and then the parameters for that query, input parameters. So when you execute this query, it is going to return search result of type courses model. And now from the courses, I'm checking to see is it really a null. If it is null, return the empty list, otherwise return the result. So basically the DAO is returning the list of courses model by reading from the item type, or you can say table. So that is basically step 3. And also you need to define that in the spring.xml file. Whatever is the DAO, you need to define in spring.xml. So where is the spring.xml? So if we go to the resources, go to core training, and then define the spring.xml. So this is what the DAO is basically. So you need to ID, bean ID, and then class name is RRS DAO impl, and it's taking two properties which are used by out of the box. One of them is flexible search service, another one is model service. So after you defining the bean, or after you write the DAO, you need to define that DAO or that bean in spring.xml. That is what that step 3 is. Now you're done writing a flexible query. That flexible query we need to call in the service. So in Hybris, there are some layers concept. Each class need to be called in another class. So for example, DAO need to call in service, or service need to call in the facade. So you need to follow the same layout or the class hierarchy or the extension structure while writing the web services also. So the next step is I need to write a service class. Again, the service class in core extension I'm writing here. So let's take a look at service class and see what it is doing it. So here, training courses services or service, I basically injecting the DAO by using the annotation resource so that I can invoke the method based on the DAO. So here, get course detail based on the code, which is a method which returning courses model. And here I'm calling the DAO, which is going to return the list of courses and simply returning it. Before returning, I'm simply logging it here, but you don't need to log it, but it's up to you whether you want to log it to see for some cases, but most of the times you don't need to log it in full level because that's going to log a lot of information. So the DAO is simply called in the service and it's returning still the courses model. Still it returning the courses model. And of course you need to define again this this service in the spring.xml. So you can look at here, I define the bean ID class equal to RRS training courses service. So you need to define in the beans.xml once you write the class. So now I am done the service class, which is a step 4. Now step 5 is, if you look at here, part of web service, this is what we need to follow. So the DAO returns model. So in this case, courses model. Then in the facades, we need to convert courses model to data object, which is a courses data in this case, courses data. And then in the controller, we need to convert courses data to WSDTO. So in this case, courses data WSDTO. So the model is used in the service and DAO classes. In the facades, we need to convert the model into data object, and based on the data object, we can write some logic, and whatever the logic you have it, you can write it, or in the model also you can do it, some logic. But if you look at ultimately the end, the controller, the service is going to use the respective WSDTO. No service will return the data object or model object. The service always returns the corresponding WSDTO. So basically converting from model to data, data to WSDTO, which is another form of object. And this WSDTO will be returned part of the service, and the consumer will use this WSDTO and perform or use the data part of his requirement. So we build courses model. Now we need to convert that courses model into courses data. So this is what it's talking about. So to convert the courses model into courses data object, we need to define the structure of courses data. We need to define the structure of courses data. Let's see what is the structure of courses data. So if you go to RRS, it's a beans.xml, not spring.xml, not core. So it's a facades, you need to define it. Facades beans.xml. So if you look at here, this is my courses data object, and these are the properties. Basically, I'm defining the structure of my data object. Once you done this one, you need to perform ant all so that the courses data class will be generated based on this XML configuration that you are done. So here the courses data is generated. I already performed the ant clean all after defining this beans.xml, and this class is generated. Again, this class is basically setters and getters. So this class is basically used in the facades. So that is what this step is talking. Define the courses data object in facades beans.xml and perform ant all. So I'm done defining the structure and also ant all, which generated the courses data Java file. The next step is we have the model object, which is a courses model. We have the courses data. So we need to convert the courses model to courses data. To convert the model to data, we need to use the converters and populators. Converters and populators. So first we need to write a populator to convert the model to data object. Let's take a look at that one. That is what this step is talking. Write a populator and converter to convert the courses model object to courses data object. So if you look at the populator, the populator is basically implementing out of the box populator, which takes two parameters, which is a source is a model and target is data. So basically what populator is going to do is simply it will take the model and data and converts the model to data object, basically setting the data from model to source as target, model to target, which is the data. So if you see here, I'm saying get the model code set in the data code, get the name from source, which is nothing but model, set in target, which is a data object, get the duration, set the duration, get the amount from model, set in data object. So like this, you need to define or set from the model to data object part of the populator, part of the populator. That is what this step is talking. That is what this step is talking. So once you've done that one, you need to write the facade class. You need to write the facade class. What are we going to do in the facade class? So in the facade class, we need to call the service. We need to call the service, and then we need to convert that model object to data object. So here I defined facade impl. Of course, it's implementing the interface. I am injecting, I'm adding a service class as a variable. Of course, it has setters and getters. And then I'm using the converter, which is taking model and converting to data object. So I return a method get course detail. In this method, I'm calling the service, which is returning the model, list of models. And then I'm saying converters.convert all, which is going to convert the model object into the data object. So if you see here, get converter, converter internally calls the populators. So part of the populator, we are going to populate the model object to data object. How we are going to do it? Using the converter. So converter will create an object, data object, and then populator will be used to populate the model object to data object. So this is going to return the list of courses data. This is going to return the list of courses data. So from model object to data object converted using the converter, which is done part of the facades. That is what this step is talking. Write courses facade class in facade extension to call the service class and convert the courses model into data object. Now we define here the converters. We are calling the converters, but we have to define in the XML file. So next step is define the facade in the spring.xml corresponding converter and populator. So let's see how we define in the spring.xml. So if you go to the spring.xml, in the spring.xml, so this is my facade, bean id class equal to impl, which is taking two properties. One is service, another one is converter. Part of the converter, we define it again, it's referencing here, which is extending out of the box populating converter, which is using parent. And then part of this converter, what we are saying is target class. The target class is nothing but courses data. I'm saying in the converter, create this courses data object and then populate the data into this object using this populator. So the populator is defined here again as a bean ID. So basically converter taking the populator, and populator will populate the data from model to data object. So in the simply the populator, you have setters and getter, simply taking the data from model to source. That is what the populator doing it. And you need to define the converter in the spring.xml file. The converter internally calls the populator. That is what this step is talking about it. Define the facade class, converter and populator in the spring.xml file. Now, if you see it, you are pretty much have all the required information. We got the model object from database. We got the data object from facade using converters and populators. And if you look at here, what else is required now? We need to convert the courses data into WSDTO to return part of the controller. So we are done till here. So we have the model object, we have the data object now. From data object, we need to convert to, from data object, we need to convert to WSDTO. This is what it is basically, right? So we need to convert it. So to convert from data to WSDTO, again, you need to define a structure of WSDTO and you need to provide the mapping. You need to provide the mapping. Let's take a look at it. The next step is talking about define WSDTO in Commerce Web Services beans.xml and perform and all. Similarly, we done, right? So for the data, courses data object, we define the structure and we perform and all. Same way for WSDTO, we need to do the same thing, but it has to be done in the Commerce Web Services spring.xml file, beans.xml file, not Spring. So if you look at here, this is what my WSDTO structure. Courses data WSDTO has these 4 attributes. And part of my service, I want to return the list of WSDTO, courses WSDTOs. And I define a bean with list of courses WSDTO, which is internally referring a WSDTO. So I define the list. That list is referring this object. That object has all the properties. So once you define this one, if you perform and all, it is going to generate this Java object again. If you look at here, there is a courses data WSDTO Java object which has basically setters and getters again. So basically, to convert from one object to another object, you need to define the structure and then you need to perform ant all. So it is going to generate the classes and you need to convert it. That is what this step is talking. Define it. So we're done defining and we perform the ant all. I already did all these steps because it is going to take time. Performing ant all again will take time, starting the server, all that stuff will take some time. But here I don't need to start the server, simply I performed already ant all, which is generated the respective Java files. So if you look at here, so this is another Java file, courses data WSDTO, that is what I want to return, part of the service, which is again set of WSDTO objects. That is step 9. Now you define it. What is next step? We need to write a controller. We need to write a controller. Part of the controller, you need to understand a couple of things, which is a key point. So far we have model object, data object. Now we define the structure of WSDTO also. Now let's take a look at controller and see what we define in the controller. So if I look at RS star controller, so this is what the controller is. So here if you observe it, so we have controller is annotation so that it knows it's a controller, which has a request mapping, how the request need to map it. And API, basically it's simply a tag name that you can define it, whatever the name you want it. And if you observe here, I'm injected the facade because I want to get the data object from the facade list of courses data objects. And then I defined a method called get course details based on course code, which is a course code as input parameter, and also one more parameter as level of scope. Level of scope. So there are different level of scopes, we'll talk in a minute, but here there are two parameters. One is course code, another one is scope of that object. Basically, what is the object here? Courses data list WSDTO is what this method is going to return. And for this object, what kind of information you want to return, part of that object, you need to define a level of scope. We will see in a moment. So here I'm calling the courses facade, which is returning list of courses data objects and setting in the course data list. And using out of the box mapper, I am saying convert this data objects into WSDTO objects. I am saying convert this data objects into WSDTO objects. To convert it again, you need to define some mappings in the XML files. So this is a simple, but you need to define in Spring.xml the mapping from source to target again. So let's take a look at that one to see how we are mapping it. So this mapping we defined, if you look at the next step, define the mapping from course data to courses data mapping in WS related XML Spring file. So what is the here? There is a XML file, DTO level mapping XML file. And in this XML file, you need to provide the mapping basically. What we are saying here, if you look observe here, the field mapper taking using the parent, source class is courses data, destination class is WSDTO. So basically, using the data mapper in the controller, it is saying convert this data object into WSDTO object. convert this data object into WSDTO object. That is what this mapper is doing basically. It's taking the data objects and converting into WSDTO objects. That is what we are returning here. No service will return the data object directly. There should be a corresponding WSDTO object because we need to define a scope of that object. So we'll see how the scope need to be defined. But if you look at here, it's taking two parameters, calling the facade, which is getting the list of data objects and converting to WSDTO. That is what this step is talking. Now the next one is we need to define the scope, right? I was talking something scope, this parameter. So the allowable scopes are basic, default, full. So what the meaning of this one is, if you look at it again, this level of mapping XML file, in this mapping file, I'm saying the destination class is courses data WSDTO, which means the API is returning this object. Part of that object, I am telling the scope basic, default, full, and I am listing what attributes need to return if someone is passing the scope as basic, what attribute need to return part of this object if someone is saying default, what attributes need to return part of full when someone is passing the full as scope part of this object. So for example, if you take a look at it, an object or the item type may have, let's say, 10 attributes or 100 attributes. Not everyone requires those 100 attributes, right? I just want only 10 attributes. I don't care the remaining 90 attributes. So why do we need to send all those 100 attributes part of the service? So we don't need to send it, right? That's where this scope will come into the picture. So in the basic, I want only, or whoever the users with the scope basic need only 10 attributes. So I would say those 10 attributes, let's say X1, X2, X3, like that, I can list all those 10 attributes. If someone is saying, let's say I want 25 attributes, then you can define default all those 25 attributes. And then full, you can return all the 100 attributes. So basically based on the scope that the consumer is passing, you return the data back to them instead of returning all the attributes. That is what the scope is talking. So here I'm returning all the attributes no matter what the scope is. But if you look at it, for example, here at the top, as an example, payment detail WSDTO. So someone is calling with the basic scope, they only get the ID part of this object, part of the response. They don't care all the other attributes. They only care the ID. That's why they use the scope as basic to get the payment details. If someone want more than ID, and these are all the list of attributes defined part of the default, which is going to return it. And in case of full, it is going to return all these attributes. Basically, you are defining what attributes need to return part of these objects, part of this WSDTO based on the scope. Based on the scope. That is what this step is talking. Okay, so you need to define the WSDTO structure, which is basically converting the data to WSDTO, and then you need to define the scope also, what kind of attributes you want to return part of this WSDTO to the consumer. Now let's come back to the controller. So what we are doing in the controller, got the data objects and then converting to the WSDTO using the mapper. That mapper is defined here. So course data to WSDTO. Now if you look at here, there are some annotations on the top of the method. One of the annotation is add secured, and I am saying role trusted client. I don't want to give the access of this method to all the users. If someone want to call it, I don't want to simply return the data. So I want to give a access of this method to specific users who has the role trusted client. If the consumer has, or whoever the user is trying to access, they must have this role to get this data. Otherwise, they cannot get the data. That is the purpose of this secured. So if you don't define the roles, anyone can access this method. For example, if you look at order, you don't want to allow all the users to access the order data, which is very important information, which has very important information. And you don't want someone to go ahead and simply delete the order or update the order. So that's why you need to define the roles who need to access that method. And then the request mapping. So the request mapping I am saying is base site ID followed by course ID, which is of type method get. So the course code is basically a parameter here again. That parameter you read it here. So you can see API param and storing in the course code variable. Next one is response body. Response body is basically to return this WSDTO as a response part of the body. And this API operation is basically giving some information part of the API. We can take a look at it in a moment. Or we can see here, if we go to the WSDTO, so there is some information available, right? For example, catalogs, get a list of catalogs. This is the information coming from this API operation. And this API operation is going to use the authorization mechanism as a OAuth client. OAuth client. So the user should be set up part of the OAuth client, and also that user should have access to this role. Then only that user can access this method. Then only that user can access this method. So if you look at out of the box, the Swagger URL, this is the Swagger URL, and there are plenty of services available. There are plenty of services available. So we need to add part of these services, our service also. For that, we are following all these steps and we build finally the controller. We are pretty much done. So this is the service someone going to hit it. When they hit that, so it is going to first look at it is, do they have the proper role? If they don't have the proper role, then it is going to return access denied error. Then it is going to return access denied error. So we'll take a look at to see whether we are going to get that error or not. But if you see, this is the critical path part of the API creation, because we need to know who need the access, what are the input parameters, what do we need to return part of the API, and what level of scope we need to define, what are the attributes we need to define part of the scope. Those are all things comes in the controller itself. Those are all the things we need to define in the controller itself. Now let's come back here and look at the steps. Write a controller, we have done it. Defining the courses data, field mapping is done, and then scope definition is also done. Scope definition also done. Now after doing all these steps, you need to perform ant clean all and start the server. I already started the server. Now this is my Swagger API after starting the server. So this is the API after starting the server. So this Swagger URL shows what are all the services available out of the box, plus your services. Now you can see this is our training courses service that we built it, and we expand it, which is a get operation. Base site ID followed by course code. That is what you see here. Base ID followed by course code is the URL. And it's saying get course detail. Get a course details. What is that get a course detail? This is what you are seeing there, the description. And we expand it, which is going to say implementation note returns details of specific course details for the code. So this is what this note is basically. And it is going to use the OAuth client credentials. And this is the response looks like when the API returns. If you look at here, the response type can be JSON or XML. So you can select JSON in this case, or XML is fine, which has the parameters. What are the parameters here? Course code, which is one of the parameter, and then field level. Then fields is another parameter, which has 3 scopes. That's what this basically the values are. Allowable values are basic, default, full, and the scope is used to return what kind of attributes based on the configuration done. And the next one is base site ID. This is required for all the services. Without base site ID, you cannot build a service because we need to know what is the base site ID. So here, base site ID comes part of this base commerce controller, which is a required attribute. On top of that, these are the attributes we defined part of our method. How do we find out the data for this one now? So if we look at the back office, I already inserted the data into courses item type. I can pass the course code as 1, 2, 3 as an example. And I can use the basic or full. Right now it is returning all the attributes. So either way is fine. Now, what is the base site ID? To find the base site ID, you need to go to the base commerce. Go to the base commerce and look at the store. When you click on the store, whatever you see here as a ID, that is nothing but your base site ID. So I need to input that base site ID here, which is nothing but electronics. Now, if I click on try it out, let's see what happens. I am saying access is denied because this, if you see here, it is showing red, which means I didn't give a authorization, or at least I didn't perform the authorization to access this service. So the user has to be set up with that role and need to be authorized. So in this case, I didn't set up any user so far. That's why I'm getting simply when I try to access without authorization, access is denied. Now what I have to do is next step. If we look at the steps also, you need to set up. This is what we saw it just now. Commerce Web Services, we see our training courses. Now we need to set up the OAuth credentials. We need to set up the OAuth credentials. So what we are doing here is insert a user. In this case, the user is RRS. I inserted this one via HSE. And when you create this user, if you see it, RRS is the user and the password is RRS. This user is associated with the role trusted client. This user has a role trusted client, which means this user is allowed to access this method, role trusted client. So I need to create the OAuth user. So for that, you need to go ahead and insert this Impex, execute it. Once you execute it using HSE, you will see something like this in the OAuth clients. So here is the user, which has the role. This user is associated with this role. Now in the Swagger, I need to go and authorize that user. So if you click on this red checkbox, which is saying available authorizations, who is the user need to going to access this one. So it's a basic auth. The user I want to provide the access is RRS user name and password, then I would say authorize. When I say authorize, now that user can access the method. Now that user can access the method. Let's go ahead and take a look at to see it's loading still, whether the user can access now. Now you see the red is now blue, which means the authorization is successful. Now user can access it. Let's put the 123 as a code. Base cited is electronics. Let's go with JSON format and click on try it out. And if you see here, this is the output. So 123, based on the code, I'm retrieving the other details, which is the amount, duration, name. Right now, there is only one object is available. If we look at types, look at the types. Right now, there is one record is available with matching 1 to 3. But let's say if you write in the flexible query where the code like 1, 2, starting with 1, 2, you want to return it, then it's going to return all these 3 records. You will see all those 3 records part of your response, which is a basically list you defined here. The list is defined, that is the reason. If it is a single object, then you will not see this parenthesis. If whenever you are seeing this parenthesis, it means it's a list of objects. So in this case, there is only one object which is returned, but it can return multiple objects based on the flexible query. Now the user is able to access the response successfully. So this is how you need to build a service. And you can also customize out-of-the-box services. So there are lots of out-of-the-box services like I mentioned already. So here you can see here, there is a cards controller, there is a order, there is a promotion, there is a products, there is a stores controller, user controller, vouchers controller. There are many attributes available, many controllers available. All those controllers has different operations. And if you want to add more attributes part of the product controller, for example, let's say get, then you need to create a new class and extend this one and add the attributes to the model, which means you need to modify the item.xml, also to the data object, and then WSDTO. You need to follow some of the steps. You don't need to follow all these steps. You need to follow some of those steps to modify the existing controller, to modify the existing API, in other words. So if you go back to the notes again, once you've done that API, then you can test the Swagger. So this is the data that I inserted it using the Impex, or you can do it directly in the back office. And then these are my parameters. 1, 2, 3, basic, electronic is a base site ID. And when you click on try out, you will see the output something like this. You will see output something like this, and the response code is 200. So that is what you have to do in order to customize or in order to create a new service part of the OCC services. Part of the OCC services. So just to recap the steps before we close out the session. So we created a item type, but before we start any API, the important discussion you need to discuss is identifying the contract input and output parameters and what type of operation you want to build it part of your API. Once you know those details, you can write the corresponding classes. You can write the DAO, you can write the service class, you can write the facade, you can write the corresponding converters, populators, and then you can define the WSDTO structure, and you can write the controller, and in the controller you can specify what type of operation it is, what type of role you want to define it, part of that method. You can do all that information along with the scope that you are going to define for WSDTO. The scope is basically to return the attributes, number of attributes. So if it is a basic, you want to return only 5 attributes. If you want to default, you can return 150 attributes out of 100. In the full, you can return all 100. So if you look at here you can pass the fields, basically the scope. So if you are passing only basic, it return whatever is defined there. If you say full, it is going to return the list of attributes here based on the full that you defined in your code base. I hope this training or this session will help you to get better idea on the OCC services, and you can build easily any kind of service part of your project. Thank you for your time listening, and I hope you enjoy this session. Thanks.